Hey guys, welcome back to another episode. Today we're going to take a closer look at ARM Holdings. The company is up roughly 7% today after some announcements that ARM is entering into the AI market. So we'll break it down a little bit more in today's episode, and I want to share my overall thoughts. But first, I do want to say this is probably a nice missing piece that ARM is finally going to get. Let me explain a little bit more in today's episode.
I want to thank the Motley Fool for sponsoring this video and check out fool.com/Jose for the 10 best stocks to buy now. With that link, you get a promotional offer for their subscription service. Now, let's continue with today's episode.
So, if you look at the news section for ARM stock, you are seeing a lot of reports that ARM is focusing on launching AI chips. So first, let's take a closer look at the article here. So there's one article here that we can see that SoftBank's ARM to reportedly launch AI chip by 2025. Just a quick reminder, ARM is a UK-based company, which right now has over 90% of its stake owned by SoftBank, which is a huge Japanese company. And supposedly they are setting up an AI chip unit to build a prototype by spring of 2025, according to some reports that came out on Sunday. So, a quick background on ARM. ARM designs this pretty important architecture that many big tech players and big tech companies license. So, they do make money through licensing fees. Some of those companies are like Qualcomm, like Apple. And outside of licensing fees, ARM also makes money from royalty fees on each sale they make for these chips that are being made. So yesterday or earlier today, I dropped a video on ARM on their most recent earnings, and within there, we talked a lot about ARM's different solutions. And most people think of ARM and we think about the mobile processors, we think about laptop processors, but ARM also helps design a lot of chips for the data center market. I mean, all big tech players. We have Microsoft with their Cobalt 100 based on ARM solutions. We have Amazon with Graviton 4. We have Google with Google Axion. So those three big tech players do create ARM-based chips on CPU sides, and now that's very important. But right now, it does seem like the market is obviously moving into more of an AI space. So companies are trying to save money in forms of their capital expenditures, in kind of their infrastructure solution needs, and we are also seeing a lot of companies design their own type of AI accelerators. And I think this is exactly where ARM is going to go. Obviously, right now, everything we are hearing are just based on reports, no confirmation from ARM itself. But some people, there are some speculations that ARM is actually designing its own AI chip to sell, very similar to NVIDIA in the future. I personally believe that's not going to be the case. I think what they're going to do is they're going to design their own AI chip solution, just like they designed their own kind of processor or CPU solution, and then they're gonna license those solutions to kind of integrate with the other solutions that they have. For example, here's a perfect picture of ARM's Neoverse. And ARM Neoverse is their CPU kind of solution for like the data centers for the high big tech infrastructure solutions. So here we can see that ARM has created kind of these CPU processors, the Neoverse processing solution cores, right? So I think this is what we're gonna see with ARM, not necessarily what maybe we might be hearing on articles where, if we take a closer look at this article, it seems that SoftBank is originally looking to mass produce systems that have been set up, and eventually they want to spin it off under the SoftBank mark. And then obviously ARM will still own some equity if they spin off, but I don't necessarily that's the way that ARM should go about it. If they are really entering into the AI accelerator market, I think it's going to be something like this. And I think this is actually a great picture that shows how this can benefit ARM in the future and how it can help drive sales. So, one of their important systems right now is what they call their compute subsystem or CSS. And this is what they say is the fastest path to production of with the world's leading performance on leading edge technology. So, for those that might not be familiar with compute subsystem, let's say you are a Microsoft and you want to develop your own CPU. But you know, developing a CPU takes time. It takes engineering hours. It takes money. It takes engineering pay, and then it takes time from to go from design, then testing. Then from testing, it takes time to go to the manufacturing phase as well. So not only time in just designing, but the whole process takes a long time. So ARM has created this compute subsystem solution, which helps eliminate a lot of the time. For example, they have already created kind of these amazing cores where you, let's say, are Microsoft and you've used it with your Cobalt 100. You're like, hey, look, I want to speed up the process. I'll pay you a little. I'll pay you extra money. Obviously, better margins for you, and you kind of give me this subsystem that you have created. So they created this subsystem right here. Now, as Microsoft, what I have to do is now focus on designing some other aspects of the chips. Maybe how I'm going to connect it with a specific on chip accelerator. Maybe how I'm going to do power control. Maybe inputs and output modules. Maybe my memory, how I'm going to connect with that, right? So we can see that while it does help out its customers by doing this compute subsystem, it's not the full solution. So, in my opinion, or what rushed into my head when I heard about this AI chip news, it probably goes pretty well with this solution right here, where they're gonna be able to license some form of on-chip accelerator that they design, and who knows, they might even kind of have a compute subsystem where now the compute subsystem includes kind of the CPU and some form of AI accelerator, reducing the time to market even faster. Before we go any further, we are now on the road to 50,000 subscribers by the end of the year. Thank you all for the crazy support. So if you haven't and are enjoying the content, make sure to hit the thumbs up and the subscribe button. Finally, if you want to support the channel a little bit more, make sure to check out my special offer at fool.com/Jose. Now back to today's episode. And the reason I think they're going to do that is during the earnings call, if you kind of watch some of my previous videos, the CEO talked a lot about Grace Blackwell. And this is an NVIDIA chip. And this, for those that are not familiar, this NVIDIA chip, the Grace Blackwell, is integrating an ARM based CPU with an NVIDIA GPU. So, how did NVIDIA do it? Obviously, they didn't use the Neoverse, right? I don't think they used the compute subsystem, but they used an ARM Neoverse license. So, they created their own CPU. And then on just the top level, right? There might be some tech guys here that are extremely knowledge in this. Might be like, Jose, you oversimplify it, but I'm just taking a closer look at a top level overview where they licensed and designed their own CPU, and then they have their own kind of AI accelerator being their NVIDIA GPUs, and they kind of connected it with each other, right? So this is the kind of solution that Blackwell is. And the great thing about this is you're able to interconnect between a CPU and an accelerator at your own interconnection, which allows it for much higher access to memory, which is also very important for things like AI training, AI accelerating, AI inferencing, and other types of AI workloads. So, with this, right, you're going to have some form of connection of communications that you might create to help communicate between your CPU and your GPU or AI accelerator, which is a lot faster than the traditional method, right? The traditional method right now, or the conventional system, the CEO talks about it, is having an x86 CPU, like a Intel CPU or AMD CPU externally, and then through a PCIe bus, so you might connect it somewhere in the motherboard, you connect it to your AI accelerator. But that is so much slower. So by using some form of custom connection, like NVIDIA uses the NVLink, you get much higher bandwidth. And the CEO mentions that they think going forward, this means that the ARM adoption in the data center will probably increase faster than the numbers they have indicated, but they're not saying anything official right now. So, by rereading this, which came out last week, and hearing these reports that ARM is really focusing on creating some form of AI accelerator, this makes a lot more sense. So, just quick reiteration, if this is true that ARM is focusing on AI chips. I, even though I'm not an investor, would personally hope that they're working more on their traditional route, which would be something that they can license and then collect some form of royalty fees, especially as we're getting into this market where you're seeing this CPU and GPU combination together. Now, if they're creating their own AI chip and expect to sell that individually, then that's not a route that I would be pleased if I was an investor. So let me know, what are your thoughts on the comments below.